Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to day 77 of our F225 hot lap and track guides. Yes, we return this weekend here to Las Vegas, of course, the next race in the IRL Formula 1 season, but one that I think would be absolute carnage if Formula 2 ever were to race around these streets, and it's exactly for that reason that I think F1 might end up bringing Formula 2 to Vegas in the future years as well, of course. If you missed out on the video that went live a couple of days ago from Brazil, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. But yeah, of course, obviously only 2 more tracks after this one, plus I guess 3 reverse tracks as well inside of the game. So we've almost finished all of these F2 setups as well there, of course. If you don't know what this series is about, I basically go through, I talk you around every single circuit on the F1 game. I provide you with a race-ready setup. I kind of talk you around what gears you want to be using, where your braking markers should be, and any other kind of useful nuggets of information I can possibly provide as well. Of course, as always, timestamps will be linked down in the description below. We are super close to 15k subs here on the channel as well. So if you aren't already, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. I do provide all these setups for free, so it is the best way of supporting us here as well. But yeah, without further ado though, let's head out onto the Las Vegas circuit. Making our way then out of the final. Of course, we're going to be up in top gear as we prepare ourselves for turn 1. Of course, we want to try and make sure you get as much of the car over that inside curb as you can, just because it's the least bumpy area of that final corner then. Bring the car over, though, to the right-hand side, ready for this first turn. You want to be braking just before the 100-meter board down in towards that first corner, probably about 120 meters out. Be very careful, though, that you don't lock up the brakes, as you obviously want to try and swing the car in nice and early and get the inside wheel over the inside curb. A lot of the Las Vegas circuit, you're really trying to gamble things over the curbs as well. So yeah, make sure you get it wedged there. Short shift up through 3rd gear on the exit, and then just as the circuit begins to open up, that is when you want to go through 4th. You're aiming for this outside wall there. You can kind of see, obviously, it still arcs around to the left before it goes back to the right-hand side. So you kind of want to slot the car in right next to the wall here, just as the outside of the corner starts to move back right. Use a big blender throttle through the first part there. Make sure you get as close to the inside wall as you can, but you can carry the throttle off of the turn very early. So you want to carry the speed off of the corner right to the outside wall, making sure to activate the DRS, and then keep the car over on the left-hand side as we make our way down in towards turn 3 there. Of course, you get a bit of a DRS zone, a bit of a chance to breathe after those first couple of corners, but you want to be eyeing up the 100-meter board there, just on the brakes before you head over the bump. Otherwise, A, you've broken too late, and B, it's much easier to lock up the front brakes as well. All the way down to 2nd gear, and then once again, you want to try and get the car kind of over these tram tracks on the inside, really making sure that you wedge the car over that inside curb. Get as much of it as you possibly can over the curbing, and then just as you come off the other side, that is when you want to pick up full throttle once more and get the power down. Up to 5th gear then as we make our way through what is arguably one of the most difficult corners in all of Formula 1. You've got no real kind of reference point, no easy reference point to kind of try and find. So I like to brake just at these tyre markings in the middle of the road. From 5th gear there, it's really tricky to kind of cadence brake and rotate the front of the car in. So you want to try and use as much engine brake as you possibly can. Bring the car down to 2nd gear. Again, get as much of it as you possibly can over the inside curb before you try and do the same through the second part as well. Really flick the car through. Don't allow it to run too wide though on the exit, because you want to be aiming for that outside wall once again, and then just a small kick down on the brake there. And once again, you can just try and get the inside wheel hooked over the exit curb there. Just be very careful of the inside wall. Flat out once again though on the exit, being really careful that you avoid getting any wheel spin. You're going to be up into 5th gear as we make our way down through this S-bend. I wouldn't bother shifting up to 6th. It just gives you a little bit more rotation and a little bit more stopping power through the exit of the corner. And then just as you kind of come through shot, you want to go past the 150-meter board, pretty much at this little road marking on the track as well. You can see that it currently says only on. Don't really know why. So yeah, that is kind of when you want to be getting on the brakes there, just as the circuit opens up. From 5th gear, you want to slowly cycle down. Just be careful of the outside wall there. You don't obviously want to hit that, otherwise you're going to lock at the fronts and probably go straight on in that escape road as well. But again, because you're in a Formula 2 car, you can take a lot of curb as we try and make our way out onto the strip there. Careful of the wall on the outside though, as we try and get the power down. But of course now you've got a huge opportunity. One of the longest straights in all of Formula 1. Just to sit back, relax, collect your thoughts, and mentally prepare yourself ready for the final corner. Make sure, of course, to activate the DRS as soon as you can. Hug the left-hand side wall until you get out onto kind of the proper straight, and then bring it out over to the right-hand side there. Ready for the final big braking zone of the lap, though. You want to be braking at about 125 meters out. Go past the 150 meter board. You want to ideally be downshifting for the first time at about the 100 meter board there, all the way down to 2nd gear. Just skim this first curb on the inside there. Get full throttle as soon as you can. Wedge the car over the curb on the exit, and then you should be completely flat out through the final couple of corners there. And then again, you've got another flat out section all the way back around towards the start-finish line. Again, just remember, take the inside curb as much as you possibly can, just because it does give you a tiny bit of extra speed, and of course gives you a slightly shorter distance as well, which is rather useful. There we go then. That is a lap of the Las Vegas circuit. Very easy on paper, very difficult to get hooked up though in practice as well. So let's head back to the pit lane and I'll talk you guys through the setup. Having a quick look then at our leaderboard, as you can see there, we're about 9/10 away from the world record currently, but 29th in the world, top 30 overall. I'm pretty happy with when all is said and done. I reckon if I absolutely nailed it, we could have probably got down to like a 41-1, and that would have put us about 17th globally as well there as well. So yeah, pretty happy with the lap time that we're able to do around this circuit. Having a look though, no wing whatsoever with these F2 cars here. Of course, it seems like low wing is the meta generally in F125, or lower wing than you would normally like to run. But of course, with these F2 cars where you are quite gear limited, especially with the straight line speed, you want to make sure that you've got no downforce whatsoever and you're going to be hanging on through the corners. Luckily, you know, with the exception of kind of the S's, which aren't that tricky at all, turn 1 and turn 2 can be a little bit notorious. There's not really any kind of corners here that really rely on the downforce or are tough with lower downforce. It's not like a Copse corner at Silverstone where you're barely hanging on with like 20 wings, so if you run 10 it's near impossible. This place, yeah, you're not really aerodynamically limited around many of the corners around this place. 170 though for your on and off throttle differential. Again, where there aren't that many big traction zones or anything like that, you want the off throttle diff quite locked, just because obviously it allows you to rotate the rear of the car through, you know, down by the sphere, everything like that. So yeah, 170 is probably the most extreme locked diff I think I've ran all season with these F2 machines. Completely minimum camber and tow though, again, obviously completely standard inside this game. Again, in theory, you'd think running the absolute maximum amount of camber would be quicker down the straights, but for some reason that just doesn't work on F125 because sense and logic inside the game there. So yeah, again, our complete standard. You shouldn't be that tyre wear limited anyway here. The only really big concern, of course, is trying to avoid the tyre walls, the barriers even, because obviously that will just give you extra tyre wear as well inside the game. 3612 though for your front and rear suspension. Again, pretty standard stuff inside F125. 1510 for your anti-roll bars there, and 1946 for your ride height. Again, if you're really struggling with the curbs, you can up this to like 2048, but I wouldn't run it too high because you do steadily compromise yourself a little bit of straight line speed as well there. So yeah, just be careful with it and make sure you're confident with kind of the curbs you're willing to take and which ones you want to gamble it with. 55-100 though for your brake bias and pressure. Again, that does mean, you know, down in towards the chicane by the sphere. Obviously the final corner before the strip as well. It is super easy just to snag the inside front brake, but you've got to be really aggressive with it. Otherwise, if I ran 54, I was just locking the rears up, and that was much worse. So just be careful with it. Maybe if you're really struggling, I would say bring down your brake pressure to like 98 or 97, but 55-100 worked for me. And then 28.1 front PSI, 22.2 on the rear. Again, you're not that tyre wear limited unless you're skimming the barriers and kind of running down the tyre walls. You know, turn the first one is set to 2, turn 3, I guess it is. That's always a really notorious one one for me personally around this venue as well there. But hopefully this setup helps you out. If it does, like I said in the intro, please make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed to the channel. Like I said, we are getting very, very close to 15,000 subs. We will be back then, obviously, Formula 2 actually racing at Qatar and Abu Dhabi. So we'll be back at some tracks that Formula 2 actually goes to in the final couple of episodes as well. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'm going to leave you with a hot lap.